Welcome to this online brief session about SSSV, that stands for Subsurface Safety Valve. We will try to understand about surface controlled subsurface safety valve, and we will know also the difference between surface controlled and subsurface controlled safety valve. Downhole safety valve is a device mounted in the production string that allows for a means to control the flow at any catastrophic situation. Why do we use subsurface safety valve? To protect the human life, to protect the environment, the operator investment, and also governmental legislation. If we don't use SSSV and there is catastrophic situation like boat crash the platform and consequently the wellhead is shattered, that will lead to oil spill and blowout. Both of them will affect on the human life, environment, and assets. And we will start by downhole safety valve classifications, and after that we can go to the principle of mechanism and know the exercise and lookout jobs. Downhole safety valve classifications. Downhole safety valve classified into two main categories: SSSV, surface controlled safety valve, and SSSV stand for subsurface control safety valve. Surface control safety valve can be controlled from the surface through the control line, but subsurface controlled safety valve operates by downhole exchange. That means the control line is inoperable. As this video will focus on surface control safety valve only, but subsurface control safety valve can be divided to ambient type and velocity type. Surface control safety valve, there are two types: tubing retrievable safety valve and wireline retrievable safety valve. Tubing retrievable safety valve is the most common today's operations, but wireline retrievable safety valve, primary type, it was used in the past, but nowadays wireline or completion engineers recommend to use a tubing retrievable safety valve. Why? Because it can be set with completion as integral part of completion tube. That means there is no restriction in the flow path. Okay? But wireline retrievable safety valve, the completion position with this recess only, but there is no tubing retrievable safety valve in the completion, just only control line connect with completion and the recess only. This is recess. To deploy and retrieve the wireline retrievable safety valve through the lock that connected with this recess through the dogs. This means there is restriction in this type, wireline retrievable safety valve. There is a significant restriction in flow path. That is the type of primary wireline retrievable safety valve. Secondary, we will know the when and which cases to use secondary subsurface or wireline retrievable safety valve after know the components and the mechanism of tubing retrievable safety valve and the primary wireline retrievable safety valve. Both of them, primary and the tubing retrievable safety valve, have the same mechanism, but the difference in dimensions. Let's see the SSSV components before talking about the mechanism. Subsurface safety valve consists of hydraulic control line that connect to the surface by CAC panel or hand pump. This control line connect to the body of SSSV through vetting flow tube, also called sleeve. This sleeve surrounded by spring that can be compressed or released. Last item, the flubber that has equalizing system. Now the time to talk the principle of working tubing retrievable safety valve. I'm watching the same video you are watching as shown in this video. When that is the components of subsurface safety valve: spring, flow tube, flubber, when the hydraulic pressure is applied, as you've seen, through the control line, the hydraulic pressure forces a sleeve within the valve to slide downward. This movement compresses a large spring and goes with flow tube down to open the flubber in a complete position. When the hydraulic pressure is released and back up again, the flow tube goes back and cause the flubber to shut in. In this way, it is fail safe and will isolate the well bore in the event of loss of the well head. The shown profile case, as shown in position, noticed when there is a pressure below the flubber and forces comes through the control line unable to open the flubber. Alright, so this feature in the flubber called equalizing valve. To equalizing between above and below the flubber in order to open the flubber in complete positions. As you're seeing, equalizing above and below the flubber to open it. Now equalizing has been done. As you see, now the force in the hydraulic line able to open the flubber to the open position. As you seen, it is complete open. Release pressure to be in closed position. Subsurface safety valves. However, the world's leader safety valve technology, many companies deployed and developed the SSSV in 1930 to protect the human life and the environment inland and offshore. The most common application is to install subsurface safety valve in offshore below the seabed. In our diagram, we see the reservoir, production buckle, the completion string, ocean and seabed, and finally the wellhead. The completion is the primary contact way from the reservoir to the surface. Oil and gas sent to the tubing string from reservoir and they travel through the tubing to the wellhead. With no subsurface safety valve installed, if any incident occurs, such the wellhead had been damaged by ships or storm, then oil and gas can flow uncontrolled to the surface and an extensive environmental damage as well as potential of loss after for human life. We're repeating the scenario but this time with SSSV installed as a part of completion at 300 feet below the seabed, and the wellhead is damaged and the gas and oil go up. The subsurface safety valve is activated to shut in and oil pressure accumulated below the flubber. This section will talk about secondary type of wireline retrievable safety valve. One, of process of using a tubing retrievable safety valve. It can be repaired in place, not usually needs to pull the completion to change it. So, when flow tube is stuck, and it is one of the most problems in tubing retrievable safety valve, stuck here mean couldn't move up or down completely. At this case, exercise job will be the first solution. Any try to catch the flow tube to move it up or down mechanically by standard wireline equipment. If this trial or exercise job not succeeded, we'll go to the next step. Next step is locked open for subsurface safety valve. Once the tubing retrievable safety valve is locked open, flubber locked open in place by many mechanisms, by many tools, depend on types, Otis or Camco or Weatherford or Baker. Each type has a separate tool to do lock out or lock open for flubber. Once the tubing retrievable safety valve is locked open, flubber will be locked open in place, and a separate communication can be used to establish hydraulic communication between control line to facilitate the insertion of wireline retrievable safety valve deployed hydraulically. So, a tubing retrievable safety valve, as we said, it is an integral part of completion tube. Primary type, it is from the first to use wireline retrievable safety valve primary instead of a tubing retrievable safety valve. But secondary type of wireline retrievable safety valve deployed in the well when the tubing retrievable safety valve is locked open, as there is problems inside the internal components of the tubing retrievable safety valve, like stuck open or stuck close. And the control line is still working, no plug, no leaking in the control line. At this case, we can do lock open for tubing retrievable safety valve to insert wireline retrievable safety valve, which is secondary type. So that is the secondary type of wireline retrievable safety valve. As shown in the following diagram, the control line comes from the surface to the tubing in the case of a primary, or to the tubing retrievable safety valve in the case of secondary type. The flubber locked open in place, as we said, and there is communication between control line and the completion. Seals, it is the plug points, as you see, upper seal and lower seal. Upper seal to prevent the hydraulic oil to pass to up, and the lower seal to prevent the hydraulic oil to move down. So upper seal and lower seal, it traps the hydraulic oil to pass through the components of secondary wireline retrievable safety valve, and consequently pushes the mechanism of flow tube, to push the flow tube in order to open the flubber or to close the flubber, depending on the case of pressure in the hydraulic in the control line. By this part, we have finished all details, short details related to surface control subsurface safety valves. I have two questions for you. First question, what hold the wireline retrievable safety valve in place? Second question, give two pros of using a tubing retrievable safety valve. Thanks a million. See you soon. If you don't know the answer or you have any question, please let me know in the comments.